Jake Dustin is asking, I am applying to PhD programs for December 1st. Do you think I ought to suppress my political science? I'm sorry. Do you think I ought to suppress my political stances until accepted so as not to risk being rejected for for my political beliefs? There are very few conservatives, only Dr. Peterson, in positions of power in clinical psychology as a field, yet I am an aspiring clinical psychology PhD applicant because mental health treatment and research is what I excel at. Excellent, good for you. I am even considering deleting my Facebook after sending in applications so that reviewers cannot find any potentially disqualifying stances in political posts I have ever made. Thanks, Jake and Ashley. Tigerstrom? Jake, I would definitely do that if I were you. A week ago, I filmed an interview with somebody I really had I thought was a really fun interview with. I've been working so long, I'm going to find this guy's name. Chadwick Moore. He's a real bright guy. Chadwick Moore was a huge liberal up until about September of 2016, something like that, I think. He was the editor of many gay magazines, and now he's an outspoken conservative and extremely vocal advocate for this idea that the Republicans aren't the monsters that they made them out to be, which is one of the reasons why I wanted to talk to him. And he said what I've heard many, 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 many times, and that is that it is far easier. It's a nothing. It's a non-event to tell a conservative that you're gay. People just don't care. At least most people don't care. And even if you do care, he said that of all the people, when he became a conservative and started, rooting for Trump and the Republicans and writing that way, he lost all of his liberal friends immediately. They just disappeared. Never saw him again, except for the hate mail and the death threats, obviously. And he said, the worst thing that happened to me from the conservative side, the meanest thing that anyone ever said to me when I went out with this, because he was the editor of a bunch of gay magazines. He was a gigantic, huge, well-known gay rights, left-wing progressive. And when he finally woke up and saw the light, he said, the meanest thing that anyone said to me on the left was they wanted to kill me, and they said, we know where you live and we're going to come after you. But he said the meanest thing anybody ever said to me on the right was that he'd gotten an email or a message of some kind, and the email basically said this: Dear Mr. Moore, my name is this. I live in Texas. I'm a rancher. I'm a Baptist, a devout Christian. I don't agree with your lifestyle, but that's really none of my business, so welcome aboard. He said that was the most negative thing he got. It made me very, very proud. I think it's absolutely true. So the reason I bring that up is he came up with a term that it's just a very simple term. Maybe it's been around for a while. I just never heard it before. Chadwick basically said that coming out as a gay person to conservatives is a non-event, but coming out as a conservative to liberals in the gay community and other liberals, he said it is social suicide. It's social suicide. You probably are aware of the fact that if you get your PhD program, and I certainly encourage you to do that, if you can sneak under the door once you get inside the, inside the fortress, you're going to be a lonely individual there, or you're going to have to maintain the charade, and that'll be up to you. I don't make any judgments about that. I've seen people lose their livelihoods. When I decided to write conservative political commentary, I knew that was the end of my Hollywood career, and any chance I had of working in Hollywood was over the second I published the first of these gun essays, I think, maybe the second thing I did, something like that. That was just a decision I made. But, yeah. Now look, once something's on the internet, it never goes away. So the question is, if you were to scrub everything you had on Facebook, I have two thoughts about that. First of all, if they're looking more than on the surface, they're probably going to find out. And secondly, if you're going to do that, you're going to find yourself in a situation where somebody says, they're going to look for your Facebook page. You're not going to find one. Who's not on Facebook these days? I mean, really, almost nobody. So you almost have to have an alternate persona or some damn good reason for why there's no trace of your social media. That's the world we live in today. It's a tough question, Jake. But I'd love to tell you, no, stand up for your principles and fight it out. But that's not the way things work now. Without question, in that field, if people find out that you're a conservative, and if you voted for Trump, then it's over. You will not get a position. And the beautiful thing about that, from the progressive point of view, is they'll never, ever have to justify why. If you're applying for a PhD position and there's 15, 20 applicants for the job, they can look at your resume or the interview with you and say, this guy's perfect, he's great for the job. They find out you're a Republican and they give it to the next person. And how are you going to know? You'll never know. It's the same thing in Hollywood. It's not like I say, hey, I voted for Donald Trump and then 2 days later I'm fired. There's a lawsuit there. But that's not how it works out here. So I say I voted for Donald Trump. 2 weeks later, the show comes to an end, or they're on hiatus or whatever, and I never get hired again. And how do I prove it? There's no way you can't prove why you weren't hired. You just know that you used to be hired and now you're not. So, Jake, I hate to be the person to break it to you, but you're in a bit of a pickle here. However, as a specialist in mental health, I know you'll do what is best for you. I do not. I don't agree with being quiet. I think the reason we're in all this trouble is because we're quiet. I don't know how many times I've seen Hollywood actors and writers and so on come up to me and say, gee, Bill, thank you so much for saying all the things I wanted to say, but if anybody found out I was a conservative, I'd never work again. And here's the problem. He's right, but he's also the reason why he'd never work again. Because if everybody spoke up, we wouldn't be in this trouble. Specific answer to your question, if you want the PhD thing, I think your chances are better if people don't find out that you're a conservative. And the question is that in fact the best life opportunity or the best life course for you? I don't know. I've seen stuntmen looking at their shoes, crying. These are the toughest guys I've ever met. Tears in their eyes, talking about the number of times they had to sit there in makeup trailers and nod when all the rest of these producers and actors were saying, oh, the soldiers are just a bunch of psychopaths. They're just over there murdering children for the oil. Right, Bob? Yeah. The shame of that stayed with them, and it was hard to bear. So think about it seriously, Jake, and choose carefully, and whichever choice you make, whether it's the choice to improve your chances or whether you want to take a longer road, which may not ever get you there, whichever one you choose, I certainly wish you the best of success. Let's see. Yeah, I'll do a couple more, I guess.